time as far as the presentation?
You guys were about 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Yeah. It was long, which was fine. There's a lot of content.
Hello everyone, so here's our presentation on Power Talk. I'm Colin.
Max.
Wayne.
Jake.
Jacob.
So this chapter focused a lot on linguistic styles, and so linguistic style is the way that we communicate with each other, and it emphasizes how we speak. Like, do we tell jokes? What are our mannerisms like? How do we carry ourselves? Word choice, pausing, and it's also heavily influenced by culture, geographical region, and gender.
So the first linguistic style is getting or sharing credit. Men tend to use I because they believe the need to self-promote or position themselves above others, as women tend to use we, even if it is their own work. The problem with that is the speaker doesn't necessarily get the credit they deserve. The next one, about acting modest. Men are more likely to minimize their doubts, as women tend to downplay their certainty. At a first glance, this may seem that they lack confidence, but they more just try to act modest and try not to seem boastful. These characteristics stem from positive reinforcement from a young age with their peers.
So with asking questions, it's often seen that underlying power dynamic exists between the question asker and the person answering, where the asker is almost seen as ignorant. The chapter talks about how women are more likely to overlook this power dynamic and ask the questions to gain the certainty, so they know they're actually doing their job right. Then with apologizing, this comes into the idea of conversational rituals that she touches on in the chapter, which are just things we overlook the true meaning of because of the way that we've socialized as children. And apologizing happens to be one that she claims women tend to exhibit as they'll enter a situation, apologizing for bothering or things like that, just saying I'm sorry for things that weren't their fault, like we talked about with saying, like, sorry that happened to you, less so that it's your actual fault, which can decrease the how confident you seem in other people's eyes.
So giving feedback, depending on the feedback you're giving, usually positive before negative is the way to go, because if you give negative feedback first, the positive you give afterwards would seem more of an afterthought, and it seems like you're degrading whatever it is you're giving feedback on rather than trying to help, which is why you want to explain why you're giving the feedback you are, and then also try to include ideas of how to move further and how they can progress and keep progress forward. And then avoiding verbal opposition, it's good to present new ideas in a way that doesn't seem like you're directly targeting someone else's, in a way that could appear to be sort of confrontational or hostile. It's better to present the idea in a way that sort of offers an alternative to the idea in opposition, which would avoid, like I said, making a sort of a hostile environment where productivity would decrease, rather than sharing ideas where it would help add towards the productivity of the idea in the end.
So managing up is when given the opportunity to converse with a superior, like a manager or a boss, the different ways that men and women go about and interpret that. Men tend to talk up their achievements, and women tend to play down their achievements, and that's due to social upbringing as a child. And then in a work environment, this linguistic style tends to give men the advantage in a business atmosphere. because they're able to talk up their achievements to their superiors. And then being indirect is the tendency to say what we mean without spelling it out in all of the words. So it leaves your idea up to the person you're talking to, being able to imply what you're saying. And then one of the elements of communication that varies the most from one culture to another. So the areas where this is seen the most is when there's people talking who are from different cultures. And then when it comes to telling others what to do, women are especially likely to be indirect. And when it comes to admitting fault or weakness, men are the most likely to be indirect. So the U.S. business context, the highest ranking people tend to take a more direct style. So just like the last one, in a business atmosphere, men talk or are able to admit their fault or weakness are indirect, and women who are indirect when it comes to telling others what to do. And so that also gives the men the advantage in the business atmosphere.
Okay, so just kind of to wrap up all these ideas, these points here are really important to take away. So reading your situations, just like the book's example of the critique on presentations between a man and woman, it's important to read that situation. And then all of these points, really just know the dynamic and how to talk to different people.
Same question as always. What's your number one recommendation to a young, is gentlewoman a word? Lady. A young lady going to work in her first job. What's the one main thing you would recommend for her?
I would say that both on the men and women's side, it's important to go into a business atmosphere having knowledge of what this chapter is about. Just being aware of different linguistic styles so that you can adapt to different situations. So for women, it's how they present themselves, and for men, it's how they receive communication.
I'd refer him to chapter 3 in HBR's top 10 most read on business communication.
I think that women have a lot to offer, and sometimes they don't want to show that because they kind of want to underplay their achievements and everything. So I think it's important for them to be confident about what they offer and what they bring to the table so that they can, yeah.
Well, let me build on that because I think Tannen sort of addresses it. The point, I think, is well taken, and isn't she also saying that for a woman to upplay herself, she's going to feel like she's a bitch? I mean a witch. Right? So how do we manage that? I mean, there's this feeling that she's going to have that's really strong. Oh boy, if I do that, man, oh man.
I think that's one area where it kind of starts to land more on the males in the workplace, because you need to recognize that people communicate differently. So some people are more modest than others and don't want to step out and take that. We need to see when that actually happened, talk to other people who are involved, and get reports from them, and really just dive deeper into the meaning and question the face value of the words.
So I'm going to push back a little. What I heard you say is, look, if this becomes an issue that the men need to deal with, we need to be more encouraging. We need to bring stuff out and say you're doing a great job and you're doing a wonderful job. Is that roughly?
I'd say there's a happy medium somewhere in between, where people are still modest, but you pay enough attention to the work being done and by who it's being done that even though there's degrees of modesty in existence still, you can still give the credit where it's due, how it should be.
And we have a woman and you're saying, assert yourself more, feel stronger. And she still is going to feel, well, if I do that, then I'm going to come across as a witch. Right? Because her feeling hasn't changed yet.
I would say as a man, I almost feel like if I'm too boastful, then I'm just going to come across as an ass.
if but for a man, you got to really, 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 really be boastful to be thought of that way, right? That's the dilemma here.
I'd say it almost starts being more of a masculine versus a feminine thing, and then some men can still be more feminine in their behavior and still exhibit some of these qualities.
It's a tough situation, ladies, isn't it? How do you manage that? I mean, we are certainly willing to welcome you into the club. You understand that, of course, right?
Yeah, but we can't take it too far, or else we'll be stepping on your toes, right?
You know.
We just have to find a different way to do it. Like a better way to
I think it's
talk
important
about
to
ourselves.
know that dynamic, and even if you feel that way, to understand that and maybe go about it a different way, making your superiors known, or make your superiors know that you feel that way, and try and maybe go through different meeting processes, get your ideas out there in different ways, so you don't feel boastful.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just how you promote yourself, it's also how you interact with others. So not just sharing your ideas, but giving feedback on other people's, like I was saying. It doesn't always have to be positive, but giving positive feedback gives people confidence in you, that they can bring ideas to you, and it just makes you a more comfortable asset to the work environment, more approachable, and makes you less boastful, I guess you could say, and that you're a team player, not only just about yourself.
I think for men, especially going into a business atmosphere, looking through that sociological lens of these different linguistic styles would make a huge difference. Just being able to see everything through that lens and understanding those differences.
Any other thoughts that anybody'd like to add to what's been said so far? Cool.